Good day, and thank you for allowing me with you today. What's most important is that through pandemics and terrorist attacks, whatever may come, there is no place else on earth today that I would be but to stand here with my colleagues around the world in solidarity with Mrs. Rajavi and all those who fight for freedom in Iran. To the residents of Camp Ashraf, whom I've had the honor of being with so many times, I think I speak for everyone watching today around the globe. You have our undying admiration. I believe one day we will gather at a park in Tehran as all of your names are unveiled as a monument to the tenacity of the Iranian people in their fight for freedom. Iranian school children for a generation will learn of your exploits. To Mrs. Rajavi, it is our honor to stand with you again. Your indefatigable spirit, your courage, the sacrifice. We all recognize that through this 40-year nightmare of the Iranian people, there have been many leaders. Some have sought compromise with the regime. Some, to their credit, fought from within. Some silently. Some have taken up strong voices around the globe. But in 1988, when the regime waged war on its own people, attempting to destroy through murder the MEK, those who sought compromise lost legitimacy. Those who would rule from within and seeking change lost the right to rule. Today, despite what differences there may be in the diaspora and within Iran, only one organization never sought compromise, has no blood on its hands, never denied the freedom of any Iranian, stood tall, and has the means, the resources, and determination to rule a free and democratic Iran at peace with the world. The MEK, the people of Rajavi, and only one leader, Mrs. Rajavi. That is why across ethnic and racial, national lines around the globe, we stand with you today. To my colleagues around the world, the one thing to witness through these years as we gather annually is how the strength of this movement rises like a wave. I am so happy this year, despite our partisan differences in American politics, that we were joined by Secretary Pompeo, joined by former Majority Leader of the United States Senate, my Democratic colleague, Harry Reid, joined this year by Senator Menendez, Senator Cardin. The regime should not fool itself. We may have our differences on many issues in America, but when it comes to ending this regime and standing with the Iranian people, you cannot get a thin piece of paper between us on our resolve. It builds by the year. One voice, one policy from one country. Ending the clerical regime in Tehran is the great unfinished business of the 20th century. We witnessed the collapse of the Soviet Union, the end of Saddam Hussein, the destruction of Gaddafi. One by one, they have fallen. We remain with a clerical regime that deserves not even in the 20th century its destruction of rights, denials of basic freedoms, its lack of the credibility to rule. On this, there should be nothing but resolve by all free nations. We mark our progress this year in that resolve in many ways, knowing that the Iranian people themselves have paid a terrible price for each marker of success. First, to the great credit of the judicial systems of Europe, that those who would have killed us at a rally in Paris the last time we gathered were apprehended, indicted, and convicted, denied their diplomatic status in an attempt by the regime to destroy this movement, all of us, and mostly Mrs. Rajavi. To the great credit of Europe, the fact that the courts were unbent, they could not be challenged, they could not be intimidated, is an enormous statement by Western Europe. And for that, they have our extraordinary admiration. Second, the regime's breakout of the nuclear accords puts them now as an outlaw nation among the family of nations. Third, the continued economic deterioration denying another generation of Iranians the chance to raise their families above poverty. And finally, the regime having denied any semblance of free choice to the Iranian people in the selection of a new president. It is a milestone. In the election of Rajavi as president, the Iranian people have taken a stand, not because they voted for him, but because an overwhelming majority refused to vote at all. They voted with their feet. Those of you in Iran who refused to participate in this sham election, where you were denied any choice of legitimacy for a president, you took the first step. You are now in the movement. You took a stand. Now the question is, where do you go from here? The 1988 massacre of members of the MEK by the thousands made Rajavi more than an unelected president of Iran. It made him a war criminal. And I know he and his colleagues believe as heads of state that they are immune from prosecution, that they'll never answer for the crimes. That's what Idi Amin thought, and Saddam Hussein, and Patan, and Milosevic, and Karadzic. They all thought that as heads of state, they would never answer for the crime. Rajavi, you are not a legitimate president. The majority of the Iranian people refused to participate in this election. They were heard. And now you will be heard by the international community when you are brought to justice. Now the great choice will be of the family of nations. Will they take a stand? Hear me clearly. If the United Nations decides that Rajavi belongs in the United Nations, then the United Nations does not belong in New York. We must not host terrorists, despots, and mass murderers. Take a stand. Finally, to all of you in Iran who have now crossed that threshold of refusing to participate in this election, join those who have gone to the streets. Everyone can do something. A poster, a word to a neighbor, participation in a demonstration, a refusal to work. Everyone can take a stand for a free Iran. No one asks you to make the sacrifices of Mr. Rajavi or those who are in Ashram. Choose your own way to make a stand. And when you do so, know this. All of us around the world, despite our nationalities, our partisan beliefs, our races, or our religion, all of us stand with you. Close down the last unfinished business of the 20th century. End this regime now. Thank you. It's been my honor to be with you today.